Another big plus with this camera, two more. Flip out screen like that. Very nice. What is also nice is the fast hybrid autofocus is improved. Your autofocus performance is going to be much better on this camera than your A7 III or A7C for that matter. So if you care about autofocus, fantastic camera. Okay, Grant, I think we're ready to talk about... What was that?
Don't use autofocus.
Don't use auto. Hey, honestly, like people are using autofocus on films now. Okay, let's argue this for a minute. Why do you think people should use manual focus over autofocus?
This is the Film Fraternity Podcast, a show that's all about filmmaking in college, so you can turn your student projects into powerful portfolios. And now, here's the host of Film Frat House, Zach Sabo.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Film Frat Podcast. It's been a minute. I'm here with my, I guess we can call him now co-host officially because he's been on my podcast. It's now going to be called our podcast, right? So back in the frat house to talk about today, Sony is Mr. Grant R. Cook. How are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. We've been keeping up like every week, man. So
yeah.
I mean, nothing's changed there, but for our audience who's listening, it's been a few months. So how have you been? I mean, how's your filmmaking things going? How's your other stuff going? If you want, you can share a little bit about your side hustle.
The
main hustle.
The audience doesn't know is that we've been collaborating on each other's scripts. So I just sent you my script and just wanted to go over it so then I can just fix it up before I get everyone back together and we film this short film for a film festival finally, which is going to be awesome. But luckily, I have you to help me with it, and so far it's improved the script so far.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. It's cool when you're able to collaborate with people. I always say that to everybody who's a film student and or alumni, whoever.
That's
my
the
peers.
most important thing that a filmmaker can have is collaboration with other people, which is a really great tool to have.
It's invaluable. I mean, just to gain people's advice and feedback, especially when it comes to script writing, it's like the most important part of the process if you think about it. Like the script is the meat of the story. You want to make sure it makes sense, what the characters are saying makes sense, and it's not like too like robotic or cliche, especially, so it's good to just read it back to yourself, like literally read your script out loud, and then also have others read it. It's so important. So
yeah, it does make a huge difference, and especially after you have taken a break from it and then you come back and you realize, oh shoot, you can really improve it after a while. It's so funny when you think about it. Even when we were in UCSD, going over the script, it's like it's never done. Or even editing the film, it's never done because you always want to add something to it to improve it. You just gotta do the best you can, show as many people the finished work or unfinished work as you possibly can before it has to be due, and say, this is as much I could do. It's great. It came out well.
Yeah. A script doesn't really feel done ever until you just go out and shoot it, and then you edit what you got, and then you say it's done. Because even in the middle of shooting, you're like, is this enough? Should I be shooting more? Or did I shoot too much? Like, what's enough for your story? This is kind of a hard question to answer. So if you're cool with it, Grant, I think we should do a podcast about script writing. Solely about script writing. Because now that we're in kind of the I don't know what to call it, just like the middle of our processes, both working on each other's scripts, I think it's only appropriate to talk about that. We're in the middle of it. We're giving each other feedback, and I think it would benefit others listening to this to have
might as well bring them on the journey. Let them look a little bit of what we're working on together. Just get ideas, what what you should improve on, or what to have, what not to have in the script, and it helped a lot.
We're going to bring you guys together with us on this journey. So please stick with us in this podcast. We're going to keep you updated on our stories. Grant's obviously got his short film and he's planning for the long haul with it. So festival run is going to be good. We're going to get some exposure that way. And then with me, I'm kind of in the middle of a feature film. It's been something that I've been writing over the past year. I like to say the last 3 to 4 months because last year was kind of dead for me for obvious reasons. Wasn't feeling that inspired. But then now I've been picking that script back up and just like hammering away at it, adding more scenes, and it's coming real close to the end. Like I'm literally like a few scenes away from the climax. And then I got to develop that ending a little bit better. So I'm really close to a first draft. So yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah.
Also, I'd like to announce this to everybody too, that as of last week, Grant and I and a third person have decided to go to the NAB show this year. I'm so excited that it's happening again, guys, because if you know me or if you've kept up with the podcast, I think I've mentioned this before, not in depth, but I was an intern for Sony Electronics at the NAB show 2019. And that changed my perspective on the filmmaking industry and camera manufacturers and what they offer. So hence why I am now a Sony fan. But it's a fantastic show. If you guys don't know about it, NAB stands for the National Association of Broadcasters show. Basically showcases stuff from filmmaking to TV news broadcast settings to sports broadcast. And all the gear that goes with it. So it's really for the geeks like us to go out there and just like froth the mouth over all this gear. Just look over like, whoa, that looks so cool. No, that looks better. No, which one should I choose?
Like I gotta record with that.
I gotta have 422 10-bit. Sony has done it, guys. Oh my god, like technical stuff like that. If you're into like camera specs and even audio specs, like all the audio manufacturers are there. Sennheiser, freaking Rode microphones. I mean, they got every single manufacturer. I don't know how it's going to look this year, coming out of the COVID situation. But hopefully everyone can just go in without prior vaccinations.
Yeah.
Because that way we're hopefully going to be all kind of like with herd immunity. So, you know, by that point, I'm hoping.
Yeah, by that point, it's like most people have gotten vaccinated or have maybe immunity to it.
Right.
It's like at that point, we shouldn't be too afraid of it. And we're going to have a great time. And for all you filmmakers out there, all you filmmaker students, it's a great experience. So I haven't been to it yet, but I know that it's a great opportunity to go out and really experience the new kind of film tech that they have that's about to come out, and you get to tag along with people and get to know other people who are just as inspired as you are. Exactly.
Networking is number one over there.
Yes, it is the biggest thing you can possibly have when going out to events like this.
Just for an example, like I met a guy. I mean, this was because I was at the Sony booth being the guy talking about the cameras. But a guy came across our booth, our section of the booth, because the Sony booth is so big. But he came across this camera section where I was, introduced himself, and he turned out to be from the same area I was. And he's like, here, take my business card. So he took it, or I took it rather, and he was from an educational consortium TV broadcast organization. So that could have been a potential internship opportunity right there. You know, it's a perfect resource for students, especially because if you go over there, you can meet professionals who will give you opportunities, at least the chance to get an opportunity.
World.
So
it
really is.
It only takes one hello just to get a card from someone. To be honest, most professional filmmakers I've talked to, they don't care about you looking all dolled up and so professional. All they want is for you to treat everyone like a human being, because that's who we are. We all are. And you just show them that you are just a human being that wants to learn and just happy to meet them and just talk. They are willing to listen.
Yeah, exactly. And with this NAB show, my vision for the Film Fraternity podcast is to go out and kind of expand our YouTube horizons a little bit. And I'm thinking doing exclusive interviews with some people at the show. So what do you think about that? You and I can be there. We can hand hold like a microphone, make it all professional, and then just say, hey, why should students care about this product? And hand the mic over to, like, say Atomos, for example, because there's reps all over the floor for Atomos and Sony and people like that. And they can say, hey, this is what we're offering. This is the features that we're implementing and why they're important. So it'd be cool to like have a little bit of interviews in there and post those on our YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you guys are listening to this audio only, we do now have a YouTube channel. Go and subscribe. We're going to be posting probably more content like that if we can get ourselves on the show floor this year. So that's my hope. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Now, on to today's topic. I think that covered all of our catch up, but today, speaking of the show floor and Sony Electronics, we're going to dedicate this whole episode to Sony's latest releases, because they have come out with quite a few new cameras over the past year, which is shocking given that we're living in COVID times still, technically. I'd like to say we're out of it, but some people would disagree with me very sharply. Depends on where you live, I guess. Where I live, it feels like mostly back to normal, like 80 to 90% back to normal. In some of the places like California is not like that.
No, not at all.
Yes. So, yeah.
Took a little while for that. But anyway.
But
a lot of new cameras that are out, which are surprisingly impressive, and depending on what your goal is, some will fulfill it. Others will just have little extra toys you can use.
Yes, exactly. Would you like to pick one of the cameras that we mentioned earlier? We're going to narrow it down to 3 or 4 that are brand new. Sure.
How about the A7C, which was hiding under our noses?
Yes, that totally went under the radar. I think this came out in fall of 2020. So after the A7S III, definitely. I could be wrong. Nope. I think this camera came out after the A7S III, which is interesting, given that the A7S III came out, and that's got its own full video features that are arguably the best in the Alpha line. By Alpha line, I'm kind of referring to the A7 series of cameras. That can range from the A7R to the A7 III to the A7S. So lumping all those together, those are what we are calling the Alpha line, what Sony calls Alpha cameras. And there's another one, but that's kind of an anomaly. We'll mention that later. That's kind of the twin brother of the A7S III. But A7C, would you like to talk about that? Do you know anything about it?
To be honest, this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, well, I'm going to pull up.
It's been hidden from all of us.
So I'm going to pull this up. You can see my screen for sure. I like to use this website called B&H, and I'm going to make a whole video about this, probably off the podcast. Not a podcast episode related to B&H, but an off video with just me talking about why B&H is so valuable to students. But this is a great site. They have 2 different credit cards. I'm going to talk about that at some point. And their prices are generally good, especially if you want a kit. So if you want a camera kit, this is the site to go to, because obviously they have the body only, which is right here, for $1,800 list price. It's the normal price. It's not on sale right now. And down here, they have a little kit here that B&H has. This is one example of an exclusive B&H kit right here. It comes with the camera and a 50 millimeter lens, which is solid. That 50 millimeter is probably about f2.8 or better. It looks like an f1.8 actually. Very nice.
It looks like f1. I can see it on the lens right there.
Yeah, we'll skip over that. Here's the traditional accessories kit that B&H is known for. The body plus sometimes a lens, but usually a bag, a card, and an extra battery. Very essential. All of that you need.
Especially the battery. I can't emphasize enough for any filmmaker to have one or two extra batteries.
So actually, before we go into this, I like to mention that the body of this A7C is quite identical to an A6600 or the A6000 series of cameras. It's a very small form factor. But the great thing about it is that the features are identical to that of the A7 III with some slight benefits. So could you, Grant, talk about what you told me about the A6000 series of cameras and the battery life on those compared to your A7 III? So you own, if I remember, you have an A6500, right? And an A7 III.
Yes, that's correct. So what happens when you are using a Rode mic add-on to attach to the top of the 6500, you will notice that because it doesn't have its own power source, it will eat up a lot of the camera's power source, and that goes by really quickly. Where compared to the A7 III, it doesn't go away so fast. That's why I prefer the A7 III compared to the 6500. And I can tell you right now, I had 3 batteries all charged up fully, and it ate it like it was a bag of potato chips. And it only took 15 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yes, it was that bad. And luckily, I got through most of the parts I needed for whatever I was filming. But luckily, the A7 III only took 1 battery to film the whole day, which was surprising. If I wanted to, I could have used that 1 battery, but decided to use the second one because it was low and I didn't want to risk it. But still, that's impressive. So when it comes to cameras, make sure it can also hold the power for the sound. If you don't have any other way besides a Rode mic that goes on top, you do not want to use the sound from the camera. It's not good.
Yep. So this guy right here is the newest battery from Sony that pretty much all of the A7 series of cameras use, the NPF Z100 battery. It is quite good, I have to say.
Yes.
And I would argue that the Sony brand is better than getting an off-brand like Watson. Just because it's trustworthy, they last longer. Just buying the name brand batteries is better. You might be paying like 30% more for it, but it is worth it. I mean, it will last you and it won't fail for the most part. So this camera is really interesting in that compared to the A7 III, it comes in 2 colors. Your standard black, like every Alpha 7 camera has, but now they introduced the silver look, which is kind of like a retro antique sort of vibe. So I think they're going for like
your look to it.
Yeah, it does have an analog. Mm-hmm. What this reminds me of is a Fujifilm camera, like an X-T2. Like it's really, like it looks tactile, even though the controls are the exact same as the A7 III, for the most part. There is something missing on here as far as buttons, though, and that is customizable buttons and your joystick knob. The nice thing about that A7 III is that when you're in focusing mode, if you don't do the touch focus, that is, and you need to change that little focus point when you're shooting photos, you usually use that joystick, right? But now it's not here. Instead, you have to use the little dial pad, I suppose, for like up, down, left, and right, which some people may not like. So
but I mean, at least like for those who don't care about the joystick part, at least it still has the ability to focus wherever you want, like that.
Yeah. So It's got a lot of features though that are for the positive side.
Mhm.
For one, I'd like to just quickly jump over to the A7 III. The price difference is quite different. Look at this, on sale. The kit for the A7 III is still $2,000, and that hasn't changed for a while. I have seen this drop down to 17 or 18. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think it's 1800.
And what was the other one at 1700?
So the A7 III by itself, body only, $2,000, which on sale could be 18. So 18 flat. Now going back to the A7C, the list price off from the get-go is 18. So that's already like a $200 difference.
That already tells you that you might as well pay the $200 difference. I mean,
For the A7
if you
III?
think about it, in this kit scenario, like because it has the kit, it was 2,000, and this is if you can include tax, you might as well say that's 2,000 as well. So you in that case, you might as well just pay for the A7 III if you're for the same price. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing with the A7 III. We're targeting a different audience here.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, the big selling point with this camera versus the A7 III is the form factor. The size of the camera is quite small compared to the A7 III. You'll notice compared to the A7C, the A7 III has that viewfinder up here. So the big bulk of the camera is mostly that viewfinder. Now you're also kind of getting a slightly taller body, and I want to say that's because of the screen, but I'm not entirely positive. I think it could be the size of the screen. It's hard to say, but it's definitely the loss of the viewfinder up there that the A7C is able to basically take a full frame sensor into a tiny body. So that's what differentiates the A7C from, say, an A6600. Is that the A6000 series is all APS-C sized sensors. But in the A7C, you're still getting full frame, which is really nice.
So then, for this camera, what are the benefits of taking photos compared to video?
Good question. So as far as the experience, the hands-on experience of using this, for video, I'd say this camera is better over the A7 III. And here's why. Flip out screen. Number one, huge. The A7 III is still not able to flip out like that. And if you're vlogging and you're doing travel videography, perfect camera, honestly. I would go with this. If you're a travel photographer, well, for photography, it's a little bit different. I'll tell you why. For videography, it's a big plus to have this flip out screen. Can't tell you how many people would love that feature. Now, if you want full frame, this is what you want to go for. If you want a smaller sensor and a cheaper price, I can tell you what camera to go for, and that's the ZV. Is it the ZV? ZV1. Yep, this guy.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not going to talk about this camera too much, but the price difference is great. You still get a flip out screen,
right?
And you get a built-in Zeiss lens, 2470. Fantastic lens, actually. The only drawback is you can't change that lens out.
Right.
But man, the quality specs of this are quite similar to the A7C. Given the only difference is the 1-inch sensor versus your full frame. 1 inch, just put it in perspective, I'd say about 20% more than a 1-inch sensor would give you APS-C. So this camera's smaller than APS-C. So you're in low light performance, it's not as good.
Yeah.
For photos, it's not as sharp. But man, the video is pretty good, you have to say.
Yeah, for you vloggers out there, there you go.
That's a great vlogging camera. Now, if you want to step up your game and go full frame and vlog, this guy right here. Now, viewing experience for photography, not so good. From what I've seen on reviews on YouTube, this viewfinder at the top left is pretty horrible.
Really?
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, just look at how small it is, first of all. Yeah. If you want to compare here, it will tell you on B&H under specs.
Let's see.
So actually, as far as photography goes, this camera is about matching the A7 III as far as quality.
Yeah.
So 24 megapixels, pretty standard. Still 14-bit photos. Still got inbuilt image stabilization. Great. Awesome. ISO is about the same as the A7 III.
Wow.
Same continuous shooting, 10 frames per second. Same video specs as the A7 III, with some caveat in here, in a good way, I might say. You're still capped at 30 frames per second in 4K, 420 8-bit, 422 8-bit externally. This, I think, is what's slightly improved. The autofocus is slightly better on this camera compared to the A7 III. Not by much, though. I wouldn't say by much. But I've heard that it locks onto subjects much better when you're doing video. So that's pretty nice. In low light, especially. So you want to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
The viewfinder resolution. This is what I was looking for. 2.3 million dot. That is not so great in comparison to other cameras. First of all, it's small. You're putting your eye up to that little corner, and when you're viewing, it may not be as nice as having the full viewfinder at the top. It's going to give you better resolution on an A7 III, and especially an A7R. I will tell you right now. I want to actually go back real quick to the A7 III and just compare that viewfinder, just to show you what I mean. So remember that number, 2.3 million dot for the A7C. Now we go to the A7 III specs. Same megapixels. Yep. Inbuilt image stabilization. Great. Same 4K capabilities. Great. I think it says the autofocus points are the same, but this could be I don't know. In low light, I think the A7C is a better performer. Okay, this is the same. Yeah. But if you go back to the viewfinder size, the other one said 0.3 inches. This is half an inch.
Yeah.
So you're getting a better viewfinder. It's just a better experience for the photographer.
Right.
That's my 2 cents on that. And as for overall video quality, you still get on the A7C, if I go back, your hybrid log gamma profiles. I'm getting very technical here, but if you're a filmmaker, you'll know about log profiles. Sony has S-Log2 and S-Log3 currently. And they also have this thing called HLG, which is kind of an out-of-the-box HDR sort of LUT, if you will. I want to put that in quotations. Oh, then I don't show it on the specs, but on here, at the top, you go up here. HLG and S-Log3 gammas.
Yeah.
Boom. Great. It's pretty impressive it has that, given this little body. So I'd say this camera is better for the videographer on a budget. It's sort of an entry-level videography camera for full frame. If you want to go full frame and you need a place to start, this is a good camera.
Yeah.
Moving on, would you like to say our next contender?
It's
Do you remember? There's so many cameras.
There's so many cameras. It was the Sony.
It's not even A7. It's an A.
Wait, it's AX3. Right.
No, that's a different one. Let's start with the new flagship that I was telling you about.
Oh, this one. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
The A1.
Mirrorless. Yeah.
Now, this price is quite hefty. I mean, wow. This is brand new. Like, this came out just like a month or so ago. It's crazy. It looks the same as an A7 III body. Or rather, I should say an A7R body. It looks more like an A7R4 than anything.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why this thing is so priced high.
Do tell.
So just look at this, first of all. 50 megapixels full frame.
Wow.
So putting this in perspective, for photographers, this is amazing because
Yes.
you're almost matching the A7R4, which is 60 megapixels. I'm surprised this is actually this isn't 60 megapixels like the A7R, but it's okay because it makes up for that in all the video specs. 8K. We're finally getting 8K and a small mirrorless body from Sony. That's a first. That's quite a first right there. You're getting the same video capabilities as the A7S III, which is fantastic. And that camera is a $3,500 camera. So, but with this 8K, that pushes the boundary of what Sony's new standard is for flagship cameras. It's quite impressive. Oh, look at this. Remember the 2.3 million dot viewfinder?
Yeah.
Well, this one's got a 9.44 million dot EVF. That's crazy.
Wow.
So you're getting quite a high resolution inside that viewfinder. So when you're shooting video or photos, actually, you're getting a really, really sharp, crisp image. Like, it's going to look really good in that tiny little screen. So
Don't forget, this is body only.
it says body only. It is
Yeah.
insane.
Imagine how much the lens costs.
Oh, the lenses, yeah, that's a whole different story. We'll do that for another podcast. But what I'm also surprised about this camera that doesn't justify the price is this flip out screen. It's not flipping sideways like the A7S III. It's your A7R, A7 III regular tilting screen. I'm a little bit bummed about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm pretty sure the menu system is also the same. Don't quote me on it, but
I wonder what the quality is of the screen compared to the A7 III.
I mean, I'm sure it's better than the A7 III, no doubt. But I'm just saying, like, as far as the menu system, they upgraded it on the A7 III. A7S III. It's a better menu system to navigate, and the touch functions are much better. So this one, I'm not sure.
Wait, is that the knob?
Oh yeah, the joystick.
The joystick? Is that the joystick?
Yeah, they still have it. That's good.
Oh,
I don't see why they would take it away.
I was gonna say that they got rid of it.
They better have it in there. Otherwise, I'm not paying half that price for for a camera without a joystick. But yeah. So I mean, yeah, this EVF is the best of the best.
Yeah.
It's got 4.3K 16-bit raw output like the A7S III. Also really good. It's got the S-Cinetone profile, which is arguably pretty nice. Not as much latitude as your standard S-Log 3. But S-Cinetone looks nice. I mean, I've seen some footage. It might convince you to get an A7S III. I don't know about this camera, though. I don't know. I'd say if you
Maybe
really
in 10
only...
years.
Yeah, we need to wait for that price to drop. It's just not worth it right now. You could just to put this in perspective, you could get probably an A7S III and an A7R4 together for the price of this one camera.
Yeah.
and you're actually getting better megapixels out of the A7R4. I'll show you that in a bit, but anyway, the only real reason to get this is for the 8K. That's just my opinion. I think I'm done talking about this camera because that's pretty much all. I want to quickly review that A7S III for people who don't know about it. It's been talked about for a long time. When I was interning with Sony at NAB, people were asking about this nonstop. They'd come up to the booth and like, is there an A7S III coming out? Like, that was like half the questions people were asking. And you know what we had to tell them, Grant? You know what we had to tell those people?
What do you guys have to tell them?
There is no such thing as this at this point. There's no such thing as an A7S III. That's what we were told to tell people on the show floor in 2019. Then came 2020. Then came a year later, and look what we have.
Yep.
Sony was lying to us.
Spoilers.
Okay.
Don't say anything. That's how it works.
Yep. We didn't want to tell people. Anyway, I was pretty sure that this was coming out, but I wasn't entirely sure. I'm sure people are 100% sure. But this is a videography camera. This is a video camera, and I'm gonna say why in a bit. Actually, right now, this 12 megapixel sensor.
12 megapixel, and it's UHD 4K 120 pixels for video. That's impressive.
So 4K 120, 10-bit 422 internally. That is a quite impressive spec. For filmmakers, this is what their dream was for a while, to be able to shoot this quality internally without going externally to a monitor recorder. So you're getting that internal, which is really nice. This 12 megapixel sensor is standard now among cinema cameras. Actually, some cinema cameras are actually less megapixels than this. I think the Arri Alexa is like 8 or 9, I want to say. But there's a reason for this. It's because of the low light capabilities. So, did you want to say something about cinema cameras?
Not really. There's nothing that's like, if you really want to be a filmmaker and really get, like, you don't care about the photo part of it, this would be a pretty good cinema camera for that scenario.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, this has the same resolution viewfinder that the A1 had.
Wow.
I'm actually surprised about that, but regardless, you don't really need that good of a viewfinder, but it can help. I'm going to tell you why you may not need a viewfinder and what that would look like in a bit, but 12 megapixels is, it's good for low light performance in video. Reason being that, just to put it in simplest terms, think of a megapixel as like a piece of real estate on the sensor, right? So when you own that little bit of real estate, I want to say, there's more light hitting that piece of the sensor. So add up all these little pieces together that form the whole sensor, and you get a brighter image, right? So if you were to shrink that down into a smaller little megapixel, that means like you're talking 24, 48 megapixels. That means less individual pieces, and those are getting less light in total. So the overall image that's processed is actually not as bright. That's kind of how I'd like to say it.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain. You have to do
a
lot of science involved in all of this, especially when it comes to 422. We don't like to talk about science, but it's true. It's super important. 120 is big. I mean, you don't get that in the A7 III. You don't get that in the A7C. You're capped at 30 frames per second. And internally, you're capped at 8-bit 420. You're going to have to do your own research, guys, on what the difference is between 420 8-bit and 422 10-bit. There is a difference, and it's in terms of how many available colors there are in the color spectrum. So it's really helpful for people who are color grading, because that means you have a bigger amount of colors to work with in your palette.
Yeah. Do your research, folks.
There's a lot of stuff. Another big plus with this camera, two more. Flip out screen like that. Very nice. Very
awesome.
Nice. What is also nice is the fast hybrid autofocus is improved over the A7 III by quite a bit. So your autofocus performance is going to be much better on this camera than your A7 III or A7C for that matter. So if you care about autofocus, fantastic camera. Okay, Grant, I think we're ready to talk about... What was that?
Don't use autofocus.
Don't use auto. Hey, honestly, like, people are using autofocus on films now, and Sony's got some. So you want to hear? Okay, let's argue this for a minute. Why do you think people should use manual focus over autofocus?
So typically in a film, to be honest, you don't really see that many film cameras that people use that. I mean, yes, they do have autofocus, but it's more of a personal thing for me. It's just like it's hard because imagine trying to imagine your autofocus. You don't have autofocus on your camera, you're screwed. You can't. You got to do it manually, and it gives you that practice because especially when you're in film school, they put you in like analog cameras or really cheap ones, and some don't even have autofocus, and so it gives you that practice. Because I can tell you right now that it is difficult to do manually because because in filmmaking I see people get like tape, put it on the lens to practice the spot where they have to go from like out of focus to focus, and
Yeah,
it's a good practice. That's what I think.
that's true. You gain a lot more flexibility.
Right.
It,
Where I don't want to say it's a lazy way out or a quick way out for autofocus, but I just think it helps for filmmakers to look. Just to me, it'll make them look different from any other. It's like, oh, he's impressive doing manual focus. Like that's well, typically they would have a second like camera assistant an AC to be on that lens, just to hold that lens and turn it whenever the cue is right.
right. Yeah, that is nice. But
I
here's
don't.
my no. You presented a valid argument, but I want to say why I'm a fan of autofocus now, whereas like in the past maybe I wasn't. It's because of the technology. It's been improved quite a bit. So
All right.
Sony's autofocus is much better now, especially when you're talking about the A7S III. But they've added, if you're shooting animals, they got now animal eye autofocus. So
Yes.
that is fantastic for your documentary shoots when you're solo. Say you're going to Africa and you need to shoot a documentary. I mean, this camera is great to shoot solo with for autofocus because it will lock on pretty well, especially if you got animals in your shot. If
they're
It's
moving,
been a feature.
Yeah, if they're moving. It's a great way to keep track of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I only say manual because it's a good practice at first, but then when you get used to it, it's like any field a line of work. You want to know the rules, and then when you know the rules, you can break them by doing autofocus because you know how it all works and you know what the best way to make it work for you, which is autofocus, like doing documentaries, like you said, like with animals or human beings that move around a lot.
It really depends on what you're shooting, I think. Because
Right.
I think manual focus lenses are not dead whatsoever.
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
they're not.
I mean, pretty much, I want to say 90% of cinema lenses are still manual, solely manual.
Yes.
And
yes.
there's a reason for that. I mean, if you look at the Cook lenses, for example, those things are massive, but their optics that are built in are like so specialized. It makes the image look more pleasing, especially when you're talking about anamorphic. You have to have a specialized lens dedicated for anamorphic, and it looks so nice. I would love to have one of those at some point, but they're all manual. I mean, I don't really know any anamorphic lens that is autofocus. So if you want to shoot a certain style, you need to shoot manual. And I'd say starting out, yes, it's good to practice, like you said, with manual.
Right.
But the issue is that I have, if you're a solo videographer or you're a solo filmmaker even, autofocus is kind of necessary because if you don't have a first or second AC, you can't manual focus very well.
That's
You can
like
try,
we were saying earlier. It's just having that extra hand to help you with that because like without that, it's hard. It's more difficult to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, if your future is in professional filmmaking, like narrative filmmaking, then by all means, go ahead, get a set of manual lenses. I go with the Rokinons personally, just because of their price point and the image that you get out of those look pretty good for the price. So and you get f1.5 out of those, which is like more than you need for low light. So it looks great. And you remember, Grant? I mean, we were in the same program. We had Rokinons.
Oh,
our
yeah.
media lab had.
Those are fun.
What, you didn't like it?
No, I just missed the toys we had. at
Oh, yeah.
UCSD. I'm pretty sure they replaced it with newer ones, and we're missing out, unfortunately. But that's how it works at universities.
Yeah. They like in my last year, they just added A7 IIIs to the media lab. And I shot with those for like 2 films. I was like, I love this. So I'm already familiar with the A7 series, but
Yeah. But
anyway, I don't want.
Go ahead.
Oh no, what were you gonna say? I was gonna move on to the
I
next
was
thing.
gonna say, hey, at least they're expanding their their camera equipment and everything else at UCSD, because then because it's filmmaking is evolving and they need to catch up and be able to give these students the experience to just recognize, oh, this is what this is what they have developed right now. This is what they've developed before, and um, it kind of inspires them to say, okay, because this is the newest thing, or what's going to be the next best thing, or, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And it keeps them updated what's going on in that sense, and always want them to go for the next one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, camera technology is always changing, but
Exactly.
if you can, I don't want to say spend all the money in the world and get an
Right.
A1.
Oh,
I don't want to say if you want the best photo camera, the best video camera, get an A1. I'm not suggesting go get an A1 because it's just not worth the price right now.
right.
Get something that I'd like to say when it goes on sale and by a
Mm-hmm.
lot, especially with B&H, they have student discounts for that. And I'm going to tell you later, this thing I took advantage of that was just irresistible. And why I say wait at least a year after the camera comes out, and then you'll see
Right.
the price drop, especially for
It's
students.
like buying a new video game. Don't wait. Don't buy it then. Wait later when it's a cheaper price.
Yeah.
And one more thing before we head out is we talk about all these cameras and what benefits they have, but don't forget if they're expensive, and just because you buy the most expensive camera out there, it doesn't mean that the film you're going to make is going to come out amazing. It's what you do with the camera. It's how you use it, because you'd be surprised. There are people who film film stuff with just their phone, and it comes out amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep in mind out there, folks. That's the biggest thing you can remember is it's what you do with the skills you've learned in your filmmaking school, or just from other friends, or anything. It's what you do with that
Exactly.
experience. Experience outranks everything.
Exactly. Good point. Sorry, Grant, if you don't mind, we have one more camera that I'd like to just throw in there.
All right. Here we
You
go.
remember? You remember
Tell me, what is it? I'm
the
excited.
twin brother, the twin brother to the A7S III. And I'm actually glad we're at the A7S page because I'd like to start a new tab here.
The twin brother.
Oh, we'll talk about this on the next episode. But DJI has done it again. They came out with yet another drone, but FX3, guys.
Yeah.
So if you kept up with Sony's quote-unquote cinema line, they now have a new one that just came out again like 2 months ago. It is now the FX3. We have talked about, I think in a previous episode, we have talked about the FX6 and why I think we liked that camera. But now we have an affordable version of what Sony likes to call a cinema line camera. But this is arguable right there. So this price point is about $400 more than the A7S III right here.
Yeah.
But as far as specs go, almost identical. Same 4K up to 120 internally, same 16-bit raw output, same 12 megapixel full frame sensor. It even takes the same photos as the A7S III. It's got the same flip out screen. Very nice. The body's a little bit thicker, and there's a few little body differences here. So I want to say the probably one and only con with this camera that for filmmakers you may not like, and it depends on what kind of shooter you are.
Yeah.
You notice the main drawback here that's missing on the body?
No.
Tell me.
Viewfinder.
The viewfinder. Thank you. Bing, ding, ding, ding. Viewfinder is not there at all. And some people will not like that. I mean, if they don't like shooting with the screen, which the screen is not great in direct sunlight.
Unless you get a wireless monitor.
Yes. Again, depends on what filmmaking scenario you're in.
Exactly.
Depends on like what environment you're shooting in. Are you indoors, outdoors, etc.
Exactly.
A viewfinder is nice to have in some cases. In this case, you are not getting it. I think there's an add-on with the MI shoe. I say MI shoe, it's the hot shoe up there. Sony's proprietary hot shoe allows you to like interface viewfinders, microphones directly through that shoe rather than a cable.
Yeah.
So it's nice, but you're paying more for a viewfinder then. So what's the point of paying $400 more? You might ask.
Then you might as well go. Then you might as well go for the other one.
Yeah, well, here's why you might like this camera. As far as additional accessories, it comes with one additional accessory. This guy.
Yeah. Oh.
So the FX3 comes with a handlebar that has 2 XLR inputs that are phantom powered, plus a third micro. I think it's a 1/8 inch. I want to say. I could be wrong on that, but it's like the mini stereo microphone. Not stereo. Actually, yes, stereo. Take that back. Stereo microphone input. So this is really nice. If you want to use your microphones directly into the camera, this is the best way to do it. You get an XLR microphone, like a shotgun up top. It doesn't come with the microphone, but if you had a shotgun, you'd put it up in that clip. And then you'd tie the XLR in there, and you get really nice audio. You might also put a wireless pack up there for your actors, and you may not need an external audio recorder in that case. Depends. So there's some benefits. It takes the same cards as the A7S III. So yeah, there's an example with an optional shotgun mic, and it looks nice. Don't get me wrong, I like this camera's look. In comparison to the A7S III, I think this looks cooler. The silver look of the cinema line is there, although you still have the Alpha logo, which is kind of interesting. I feel like what they're trying to get at is that this is a cross between an A7S III and an FX3. Oh, sorry, FX6.
Yeah.
Right here. Which this price is a little bit more justified than the A1 because.
Well.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Wasn't there a viewfinder for this one?
For the FX6, I think so. Yeah, it comes with that little screen.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, not a viewfinder. It does not come with a viewfinder either. It has a screen, which is a little bit.
Yeah, at least this comes with a screen. That's probably why it's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah. So this is what you're getting basically. The
body is huge.
The body's actually not huge. I think you would compare this to like an for people who know Sony like a lot, like I do, you would know about the FS line of cameras. And this is comparable to an FS5. So it's actually really small. But what's really nice about this is that it has built-in ND filters.
Oh, that's
so you see the little dial there. It says ND variable right there.
Yeah,
that's
real handy.
That is so nice to have. I can't tell you how valuable that is. That is worth this price in some cases.
Yeah.
May not be quite worth. I would say maybe $1,000 or $2,000 less than this would be a good price for it, but. The sad thing is that people were hoping that the FX3 would have ND filters built in, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
That doesn't. So I'm going to leave it at that. Would you rather get this camera over the the FS? Oh my gosh. This is why Sony's getting confusing now. The A7S III. So why would you get this camera? Well, for that handlebar, for one. Also, another difference with the body is that there are tally lights on the front and back side. So there's like a little bit of a light bar in there, and it tells you when you're recording. That's actually kind of nice in professional situations. And second of all, it's got, I just lost my train of thought because there was a fly in my room. Oh my gosh.
We had the same problem before in the last video. I was like,
that's true. I remember that. The right side where the on and off switch is typically, that's now a zoom lever. So that's actually kind of cool if you have a zoom lens, and you need to zoom in and out quickly. It's really cool. So body design is better on this camera, in my opinion. So
I think that you go back to the A7.
The A7S.
Yeah, the A7S. Yeah.
All right.
Because I think if for people who can afford it, they can afford the FX3. I think this. Oh, I should go back to the FX3. Yeah, and go back and then go to the A7S. I think that if for filmmakers who want to have the viewfinder, that would help to get that. To get the
A7S3, yeah. No doubt. I mean, you need a viewfinder, you get this camera. And you also want a better photography experience, you get this camera.
Yeah, it's better for both. Where for the FX3 is more cinema based, and so it's more film for filmmakers. But if you want both, might as well go for the other one because it's going to be worth the price for both photography and video.
If all you care about is specs and all you care about is price, then get the A7S3 because it's cheaper and you get the same video quality as the FX3. So it just depends on your shooting style.
Yeah, it depends on what you need, what your needs are for filming or videography or your art.
Yep. So I am actually not unhappy that Sony released both cameras because I think they're suiting different audiences with that. So for filmmakers, first of all, I'm going to be making a video about this, but there's going to be a real difference in price when you have a student discount with B&H. I will tell you right now. I just want to log in real quick and show you so I'm not making something up here. But I'm going to log in my B&H account, and typically what they like to do is offer students a 10% discount off of most cameras. And that's a big deal. 10% is a lot of money when you're talking about cameras of this caliber.
Right.
And so I think I can share my screen now. So I'm now logged in to my EDU B&H account, which is still good till like August. So let's just take, for example, the A7 III. What would you pay for the A7 III? Don't look at this. We're talking what B&H's offers are for the body only typically. So let's go to EDU specials, and it will narrow it down to, there you go, right there. So you're saving 12% with the A7 III with your student discount. That is quite nice. And for the A7C, it's actually, I think, a better deal. I want to guide through all the cameras that we talked about today. So the A7C, remember, that's a little bit cheaper than the A7 III. And yeah, look at that. 10%, 16. Not bad. Not bad. Now let's talk about your A7S. It's still a new camera, yet B&H is already offering students a discount. It's crazy. I wish I had an affiliate account for this because I can get people. Well, look at that. Look at that discount right there. 10%. It's normally $3,500, but you can get it for $3,150. That's pretty good. Yeah. Saving $350.
I would still wait.
I would still wait too.
Yeah.
You can get even more off for the percentage. Right.
It'll just feel like there's more you're taking off when it's lower.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does give a good deal.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stop right there. I'm not gonna share my screen again. We've talked about all of the cameras that Sony has released now. They've also released some lenses too. Go check out, I think, the 24 millimeter, the 40 millimeter, and 50 millimeter I want to say 2.4 or 2.8. So they've released new compact lenses for like more travel photographer oriented, but those are also new products that they released. And if you need a good prime lens that's autofocus and you're going on the road or you're traveling somewhere, these lenses are really nice, really small, and the price is cheaper too than the regular G lenses from Sony. So I know you have a G in your production
What's so
company
funny
name.
is that my company's name is G Lens Productions.
Yeah, G Lens Productions right here, guys. He manufactured this set of lenses.
Not sponsored, by the way. Not
Not
sponsored.
not sponsored, but if you need a videographer, go and hire this guy. He has an official company called G Lens Productions.
Yep.
I'll put your info, Grant, if you don't mind, into
Awesome.
the description of
More
this
the merrier.
podcast. All right, we're done. But before we leave, Grant, I have a surprise for you.
Oh.
I have a surprise. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I went through this whole podcast talking about Sony cameras today, and I wanted to surprise you. This has never, by the way, I've never told Grant this prior, but I have bought my very first camera from Sony.
Oh.
I did it. So you know this, but my birthday was the other day, and
Yeah.
so I wanted to. So this deal came up from B&H, and I had to take advantage of it. And I never would have thought I would have bought this camera, but I did.
Drum roll, please.
Because the discount of it is, I'm not going to put it up on there because it's probably going to change. I'll tell you offline, Grant. I'll tell you how much I paid offline, Grant. But I can tell you that it was about 30% off of list price.
Woo.
30%. So not just that 10%, but B&H had an exclusive discount this month for a Sony camera that was 30% off. And that is the A7 R4. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I bought the A7 R4. It's crazy. I've been waiting for a long time to finally say I bought a camera from Sony, because I've been like looking out like a hawk for the past 3 years on all of Sony's cameras.
I believe it.
And when I've shot with the A7 R4, and the video specs are quite similar to the A7 III, but the photo capabilities are very good. Like, I'm talking about, like, the viewfinder is better than all the cameras we talked about today. And the megapixels is 61 megapixels. So you're taking the best quality images on planet Earth, I'd like to say. But that's not true. From Sony, when you're talking about photo cameras from Sony, this is probably the best that they have to offer. So I'm very happy to say next week it's coming.
Awesome,
and I will be a proud owner of an A7R4.
Good for you, man.
So I can't believe, because I was so keen on talking about the A7S III and the FX3. I was like, which one? I know I'm gonna get one of these, especially since I bought like the card for it, and I even bought the card reader for like the CFast Express Type A cards, and now I technically didn't need it, but still, I trust this is still nice to have for should I get an A7S III.
There you go.
But I'm happy to say that. So, yeah, it's a good camera, no doubt.
Awesome, man.
So hence why you should get a B&H student discount if you are a student, or just use B&H in general. I mean, I'm going to talk about what their credit cards are like and why they're really good. But anyway, that's all I have. What do you think, Grant? What do you think about, did I make the right decision? I think you know a little bit about the A7R4, hopefully.
I think.
Not really.
I mean, it does, I think it does. It does have its points.
Yeah.
But it's all up to you, man. It's your choice, and I know you'll do great with the camera you got. And I wish you luck, man.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, reason why I got it over the video equivalent, the S series, is because in the immediate future, I intend to do photography as like a hobby, but also for real estate, hopefully, is my goal. And then also for weddings and stuff like that. And honestly, like, you want the best possible photo quality for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
People will pay money for like large prints, and you want the extra resolution to work with that. And it's also got good video specs. Like, you still got S-Log3 HLG in the A7R4. So 420 8-bit as the A7 III can do, except it has better battery life too. So it is a better camera than the A7 III, no doubt. So I'm excited to use it and shoot like crazy big photos that I will probably not ever use unless for people who want to like print out poster sized images. But hey, you never know. We got 4K screens on our monitors. We got 8K summit coming soon. And some people might want to view their photos on their 8K TV. Who knows? I'm just saying. Anyway, the future is crazy. Anyway, guys, thank you guys. Unless you have anything else to say, Grant, going once, going twice.
So,
So thank you guys for joining us on episode 33 of the podcast. We'll try and do some more in the future, especially around NAB time. It's going to be great. Until next time, guys, keep your hustle going, as some might like to say. Keep your filmmaking hustle going. Remember that you are gifted, you are creative, and that you are able. Talk to you guys later. Signing off.
take care.
That's all from this episode of the Film Fraternity Podcast. For more filmmaking tips and tricks you can use on your next project, visit www.filmfrat.com. That's FILMFRAT.com.